It's the Raw Meat Podcast, the most mediocre wrestling podcast on the internet. With the smart Greg Adams, the nature boy Jay Whatley, and the hardcore icon Puff.
It's the Raw Meat Podcast, a special 4th of July edition. Literally, we're in the studio on Independence Day. Kind of by accident. It's Greg Adams and Puff, and we happen to be both around the studio at the same time. We started talking about U.S. champions and a bunch of other stuff, and then we just said, you know, let's go in the studio and cut a podcast on the top 5 U.S. champs of all time.
Mm-hmm.
So I've actually written a list, did a little bit of research, and you're just flying by the seat of your pants?
Not exactly. As soon as you said, who's the greatest U.S. champions of all time, I already had the list in my head.
Well, yeah, okay, I guess. But, I mean, there's nothing more American than not writing down a list and coming with a fly-by-the-seat-of-your-pants mentality, so...
I also have a beer in hand. What of it?
Well, I have a U.S. championship belt over my shoulder, so...
Kiss my arse.
And I have red, white, and blue and Freedom Eagle socks, and you've got a Captain America shirt, so this is the most American podcast of the day. Before we dig into the actual lists, there are 2 people that I am leaving off my list, and I want to point that out before we even start.
Really?
Yeah, you will not hear the name Bret Hart on my list. And the reasoning behind that is all 100% to that crappy match where he was wearing a hockey jersey and beat The Miz in the worst pro wrestling match since Halloween Havoc 98. That title win that he then held the belt for like 7 days and became the Raw general manager, that match and title reign eliminates him from any consideration as a top U.S. champion of all time.
Well, he had a stroke, and I think after getting screwed by Vince, they're like, look, we'll give you this, even though you're stroked and can't compete.
Yeah.
But he's also not on my list, even though he was a great champion, and Bret Hart's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time.
And one name you won't hear on a list, and it'll probably hit you as hard as it did me when I realized that Kurt Angle only held the U.S. Championship one time for less than 25 days. That is a travesty, a load of crap, and they should bring him back and give him a long run as the U.S. champ.
He didn't need it. He was already a heavyweight champion. He was an Olympic gold medalist. But U.S. title,
The most American of Americans that I think you've ever had in pro wrestling only holds the U.S. championship for 21 days or something like that.
Well, I don't know. They kind of made Lex Luger into Captain America, and he's the longest reigning U.S. champion of all time. Also not on my list. Sorry, guys.
Wow. All right. That ruins some things. That's a spoiler alert.
Spoiler!
Since you're spoiling your list, why don't you start? Who's number 5 on your list?
Stunning Steve Austin. And the reason's simple. If it wasn't for a Hulk Hogan, they gave him, what was it, a 200-day title run or whatever it was, 280 days. He was slated to be the next WCW champion, and then Hulk Hogan came in and screwed up the whole thing. Then he quit WCW, went to ECW, created the character we all came to love, the Texas Rattlesnake. He wasn't stone cold yet, but he had that attitude. Then he got picked up by WWE and then went on to become one of the greatest characters in professional wrestling history. If he was still in the Hollywood Blondes or didn't get that title run, we probably wouldn't have had the stone cold we know today, which would have been a travesty for all of us.
My number 5 is also a WCW guy who helped use the U.S. Championship to semi-legitimize himself to the WWE audience. Booker T.
That's a good pick.
Booker T at number 5 because he had the WCW credibility, the multiple heavyweight champions there, but you still had a big base of WWE fans who didn't honor anything that WCW did. So him coming in, he wasn't at square one. He wasn't at the bottom of the barrel, but he wasn't going into the heavyweight championship picture right away. So putting him with the U.S. belt at least a couple of times gave him some legitimacy on the WWE stage for the first time. And when I was researching this, there's something about He was the second African-American to hold the belt ever, and it was like a 25-year period between the first time and when Booker T grabbed the belt. But Booker T, solid number 5 on the U.S. champion list.
That is a good pick. I wouldn't have even considered Booker T because I completely forgot that he was champion at one point.
See, now that kind of unfortunately makes mine sound bad that you forgot he was the U.S. champion.
Well,
but
I probably wasn't watching or paying attention at that point. What year was that?
Well, that would have been in 2002, and then he held it a couple more times through the early to mid 2000s.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention that closely.
All right, who you got it for?
Rick Rude. Yeah, he held the belt. One reign, 378 days, but he had to give the title up due to injury, so he never really lost the belt. And Rick Rude was just a great heel that no matter what he did, people paid attention, and it really made people pay attention to the belt.
So you could kind of make the argument that his one reign has never ended.
Yeah, pretty much.
He never lost the belt.
Nope.
One reign, never lost it. Well,
but Rick Rude, anytime he holds a belt, because he didn't hold many belts, he didn't get a lot of pushes or attention. So when he got something, people paid attention. And if you remember, Rick Rude had some just fantastic stories of sexual harassing other people's wives and everything else. So it was just awesome.
I have Rick Rude at number 4 on my list as well. So that was kind of interesting that we both dropped him there. He's one of the few who had one really long run as the U.S. champion who helped to solidify them as a character with the belt while also helping the belt along.
Yeah.
The only other guy I think that actually, and this is tough too, because as we were researching this, there are over 80 different U.S. champions.
Yeah, there's been a lot since, 1975?
Yeah, so there have been a few, and the only other guy that had one title run that was equally as impressive was Dean Ambrose, and I mean, he's gone on to now hold the WWE Championship, so that was a good springboard for him. Mm-hmm. Rick Rude didn't get to enjoy the fruits of those labor, but he's the other one that was like a one-run guy who helped him and helped the belt at the same time.
And made compelling stories, which is really all professional wrestling's about.
Who you got at 3?
As much as it pains me to say this, John Cena.
Did you steal my list?
No.
All right.
Do you also have Cena at 3?
I've Cena at 3.
Well, when it comes to the modern era of the U.S. title, the belt's been a load of crap. I mean, up until the point where John Cena got it, no one gave a rat's ass about the U.S. title. And then when he dropped it, up until Rusev got it, no one gave a rat's ass about the U.S. title belt.
Even with it around Rusev's waist, I mean, it's kind of like you've got Titus O'Neil in the title picture right now. It's not legitimized right now.
Well, I mean, Rusev is a legitimate champion. If they're trying to make up for Titus, in a suspension or whatever, good for him. He's getting TV time, which is something he hasn't had in a while and all that. But, yeah, I mean, John Cena, when he holds a belt, no matter what belt it is, it makes it legitimate. It tells a story. His battles with Rusev and Del Rio and everybody else. I mean, it's just compelling storytelling, and he makes the belt important.
Here's what I think John Cena should get the most credit for as the U.S. champion. The U.S. Champion Open or the U.S. Open, whatever he was calling it. When you got guys like Sami Zayn making their debut, guys like Kevin Owens coming and going belt for belt in the ring with him, he took that belt and who he is and opened a door for a bunch of young guys to come in, and even though he was beating them, it gave them an opportunity to get into the ring against a guy with a lot of eyeballs on him and got those guys identified as legitimate players.
Well, no matter who John Cena faces off against, whether he wins, loses, whatever, it makes whoever his opponent is, it catapults them automatically to the next level. Like, say what you will about AJ Styles, him facing Cena, win, lose, draw, however this story ends, it's going to move AJ up that ladder to a whole nother level that no one ever expected him to get to. Did the same thing with Kevin Owens, did the same thing with Sami Zayn, like you said. Del Rio, another great example. I mean, when you face CM Punk, when you take on Cena, whether the belt's on the line or not, whatever, it catapults people to the next level. And that's Seth Rollins, another great example. So, I mean, when you have Cena holding that belt, it makes the belt important, it makes the matches important, and it makes whoever wins or loses that much more important.
All right, I have a feeling these next two are where our lists are going to separate now. Who do you have at number 2?
Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I mean, hands down, one of the greatest, most underrated wrestlers of all time. Had the belt a couple of times. His rivalries with Ric Flair were awesome. Some of them for the belt, some not. But God, man, you can go back and watch any Ricky the Dragon Steamboat match, whether he was taking on Flair or stunning Steve Austin or whoever, and they were just great matches. He was a great champion, and a lot of people need to go back and watch those matches because I don't think they realize how great of a performer and champion he was.
Now, see, this is where things are really going to go off the rails because that's a guy I don't even have on my list.
What?
I don't even have him in my top 5. But I do, at number 2, have... well, if you're going to beat the man, you got to beat the man. Ric Flair wouldn't be that man if not for the U.S. champion, because even before he was heavyweight champion, he was a U.S. champion. It was an ugly as sin belt when he had it. I mean, it was what, like a red strap that had a giant gold Continental 48 on it? It was one of the goofiest things that I have ever seen in my life. Now, this is impressive. This is amazing. I never thought in a million years this would happen, but Jay Whatley just wandered in. This is the weirdest thing ever.
Look who decided to show up on a day that none of us are supposed to show up.
I know. This is so awkward.
And you're derailing in our entire podcast.
So let me get this straight. You two decided to connive and sneak around and do a little podcast on the day that you knew I would not be up here. And then the face of shock when I show up.
The face of shock is legitimate, but this was spontaneous because we just started having a conversation about the top 5 U.S. champions of all time.
Ooh.
I could even make your list for you.
Well,
Sting.
Sting's on it, yeah. Back when the U.S. belt actually meant something. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. We just had that conversation.
I don't know. That's interesting.
Go make your list.
What's your list?
Well, we're going through it right now.
Well, we're up to number 2 on both lists. I have
5 to 2.
Yeah, I have number 5 Booker T.
Oh, yeah.
Number 4 Rick Rude. Number 3 John Cena, and number 2 Ric Flair.
And my list was 5 stunning Steve Austin, 4 ravishing Rick Rude, number 3 John Cena, number 2 Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Oh wow. And Ric Flair's your number 1, then I'm guessing.
So you just wandered in.
You just ruined it, you son of a bitch.
You just wandered in as we get to our number ones. So if you want to reveal your number 1, why don't you go ahead and just say Sting?
No, he's not my number 1.
What?
He's not. My number 1 would be the guy who, in my opinion, gave the U.S. belt some credence in a time where it never was going to get it again. And that's your boy, John Cena. He'd probably be my number 1. Because when he had the belt, it meant something. It mattered. He made it matter.
I mean, yeah,
we just had that conversation.
I would go number 1 with old Cena. I'll probably put Sting at number 2.
And that's a compelling case for Cena at number 1 because the belt was nothing. And I don't want to say nothing, okay? Because
oh no, it was nothing.
No, they used it properly when it came to Dean Ambrose. They put the belt on him for 351 days. They had the Shield all with gold on them. It allowed the Shield to have all the gold without having to derail the IC or the World Heavyweight Championship. So I think they used it properly there, but as soon as he dropped it, I mean, it went back to
being trash.
Swaggerville and didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
21-day runs from R-Truth. So
no thanks. Rusev isn't on anyone's radar, though?
Not yet,
When he had it, though, before Cena got it, there was... I thought he did a good job of making it mean something.
Well, my point was they had a compelling story, and I love Rusev as U.S. champion, but I don't think he's top 5.
No, not yet, but he could. Yeah. Clearly, he's on track for it, but what they need to do...
Kalisto?
Get out of here.
They need to get Rusev some legit opponents with the U.S. champion. I don't think Titus O'Neil furthers any agenda except for maybe if tonight. I have a feeling because this is the afternoon of the 4th, and there is a Raw tonight, and there's a heavyweight or a U.S. championship match between Titus O'Neil and Rusev scheduled. I would not be surprised in the least if Titus O'Neil wins the belt today.
Well, if you're going to make Rusev an uber heel, which they've been trying to get him back to, what's a better way than beating Captain America with the camel clutch in the middle of the ring?
Well, I think because they're doing so much, they're leaning American and
have the Iron Sheik come out with Rusev and just America. Make you humble.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And it would probably do as much good as
That would be a great 4th of July move for them to pull.
Well, they had him beat Sergeant Slaughter back in the day, who's also not on any of our list, who should be, but
his runs, there are so many people when you look over the list of guys who like are the Americans who Kurt Angle. Did you know Kurt Angle only held the belt once for about 20 days?
I didn't know he even held it once.
That's
that's
a
what I
travesty.
said.
That's why they need to bring him back tonight. Rusev needs to win.
Yeah.
And then as he's gloating over Titus O'Neil, the music hits, and Angle comes in and challenges immediately.
Are you kidding me, man?
There's a 16-man USA versus the world match. We might see Kurt Angle. You put in, what is it, the Alpha Americans or whatever the hell from
American
NXT.
Alpha.
You have, like, Swagger in there, and then you're waiting for the last man.
Yes.
And all of a sudden you hear, dun, 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 bam!
Oh, it would be amazing. Wow.
All right, we're getting off track.
Yeah,
Let's
we're
hit our
way off
number
track.
ones.
It's good seeing you guys.
Thanks for stopping
Yeah.
by.
Thanks for giving us your number one.
Appreciate y'all, inviting me to this. Appreciate it.
No
We're
problem.
not even supposed to be here today.
None of us. Where's the shoe polish?
All right. What was all the way back? You were set to reveal your number one before Jay so rudely did, so why don't you give us your number one?
Ric Flair, just because it's Ric Flair. All of his 5-star matches, like his early ones, came as U.S. champion. He really solidified how great of a character. And, I mean, you want to talk about a belt making a character? First, it gave Ric Flair a platform to jump on, and then he took it from there and became the style and profile and Space Mountain. I mean, he became the guy we all know and love. Or hate it, or whatever. Depending on where you are in your fandom when you ran across Ric Flair, it made him who he was. Plus, like I said, with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, there were some great matches. He had some other great matches. I mean, he made the belt made him, and then he made the belt.
Before I get to my number one, I just want to say we have a U.S. championship here. This is a really pretty belt.
It really is. I enjoy that belt.
If it wasn't for the white strap on the IC belt, this would be the prettiest belt that they currently have. Because, the WWE champion and the women's champion both look like garbage.
Yep. Wait till you see the new SmackDown belt. I hear it's ugly as hell.
Nope. I want it to be the big gold belt, and I'm going to believe that it's still going to be the big gold belt. So my number one, we're going to hop aboard the Lex Express, and we're going to take the obvious number one. Lex Luger is the greatest U.S. champion of all time, not just because of...
Yeah, but what did he do with his title run?
Well, that's the thing. The title made him, and he made the title. His title runs combined and the days held combined tops the list.
It does, but...
He's the holder of the... I don't remember if it's one of the two, either days combined or total runs. He is on top of the list. And with the Lex Express, with the USA, the USA colors and everything that he did, he made the belt. The belt made him. Say what you want about Ric Flair having the belt, but it was an ugly belt. It was traded at house shows. It was kind of talked about a little bit. It wasn't that big of a deal. Then here comes Lex Luger. And now in the mid-'90s, this belt is it's a legitimate belt that like kids are buying replicas of and people are talking about and they're looking at, and it's on the side of a giant bus. Like, these are all things that would not have happened to the belt without Lex Luger, and Lex Luger probably not remembered as fondly because he kind of was a failure when you look at him in the heavyweight championship picture.
Well, that's what I mean. No matter what he did after this, his career tanked. They invested all this money and time and everything building this character, and it went nowhere.
Sometimes they need to learn that you need to stay in your lane, and you need to take a character who may have some promise, physically may look dominant, may have that look that women want to see, and you're selling T-shirts to kids.
And can butcher a promo.
Butchers a promo, and there's a place where they can survive and thrive, and they can do really well and become one of the greatest of all time, like when you put Lex Luger with the U.S. Championship belt. Perhaps they should take the Lex Luger experiment and apply it to Roman Reigns, and maybe that's what they need to do.
And you mean not letting them kill women and whatnot?
All right, that's enough. All right, that is the top 5 U.S. champions of all time. It's our Independence Day podcast, and we'll have more of these little shorter ones. We're not going to get in depth on what to expect tonight outside of what we already talked about, but maybe we'll recap it tomorrow. Follow us on Twitter, find us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. It's the Raw Meat Podcast.
Woo!